There's a country in Western Europe where sitting down to eat is treated like a sacred ceremony, where asking for a doggy bag can earn you a look so cold it could chill your wine, where bread arrives before everything else, but don't you dare put it on a plate, and where a meal lasting 3 hours isn't considered excessive, it's considered correct. France has given the world its most beloved flavors and techniques. But what most people don't realize until they actually sit down at a French table is that the food is only half the story. The rules surrounding it are the other half, unspoken, deeply serious, and absolutely non-negotiable. Visitors arrive expecting romance and wine. What they find is a dining culture so structured, so layered with expectation, that many walk away feeling like they failed a test they never knew they were taking. In France, you do not just walk into a restaurant and sit wherever you like. You wait. You make eye contact with a server or the host, and you let them seat you. This is not just a quirk of upscale establishments. It applies almost everywhere, from casual bistros to neighborhood cafes. Walking in and choosing your own table is considered presumptuous, almost rude. Locals understand this instinctively. Tourists learn it the hard way, usually after hovering awkwardly near a table for several uncomfortable minutes. But the real surprise comes once you are seated and the menu lands in your hands. Because in France, the rhythm of a meal is not something you rush. Courses arrive in a specific order, and that order is protected like a piece of national heritage. Starter, main, cheese, dessert. Not starter and main together. Not dessert before cheese. Not a quick combo plate that covers everything at once. Each course has its moment, and each moment has its purpose. This sequencing is not stubbornness. It reflects a deep belief that eating well means giving every flavor its proper space. Mixing courses, overlapping flavors, or hurrying the pace tells a French diner one thing: you do not understand food, and that, in France, is almost an insult. Then there's the bread rule, which confuses nearly every visitor who encounters it. Bread comes to the table early, but a bread plate does not. In many traditional French restaurants, the bread is meant to rest directly on the tablecloth beside your main plate, not on your dinner plate, and not balanced on a side dish. On the tablecloth. Outsiders stare at this, confused, sometimes stacking the bread awkwardly on whatever surface seems most logical. Locals barely notice, because it is just how it has always been done. And whatever you do, don't butter that bread as a standalone snack. Bread in France is not an appetizer. It's a companion to the meal, something to clean up a sauce or complement a bite, not something to fill up on before the real food arrives. The moment you start loading your baguette slice with a thick spread of butter and treating it like a course of its own, you've quietly revealed yourself as someone eating outside their culture. Nobody will say anything, but they'll know. Speaking of wine, France has a rule here too, and it is one that surprises visitors from countries with looser drink culture. In France, wine is paired with food, full stop. Drinking wine without eating something is considered unusual, a little like wearing a raincoat indoors. Wine exists in service of the meal, not as a standalone social ritual. Order a glass at a restaurant and expect food to come with it, or at least expect the waiter to assume you will be ordering shortly. The two simply belong together, and separating them feels wrong to anyone who grew up inside French dining culture. Now, here's one that shocks visitors from almost every corner of the world. In France, asking for substitutions is not standard practice. None of the sauce, extra of something, swap the vegetables for something else. These requests, which are completely normal in many countries, can be met with genuine resistance, confusion, or a polite but firm refusal in France. The chef designed the dish as it is. Each element was chosen deliberately. Asking to change it implies the chef made a mistake, or that your personal preference supersedes their expertise, Neither of those things goes over well. This isn't arrogance for its own sake. It connects to something the French take seriously, a respect for culinary craft. A dish is a composition. Rearranging it is like asking a musician to skip the third verse of a song because you personally don't enjoy that part. You wouldn't do it. Neither should you do it at the table. The timing of coffee follows its own strict code, and this one breaks the hearts of visitors who love a cappuccino with their dessert. In France, milky coffee drinks are a morning tradition, not an after-dinner one. A café au lait, a cappuccino, any coffee with significant milk is breakfast territory. After a meal, especially dinner, you order an espresso. Small, strong, no milk. Ordering a creamy coffee after a long evening dinner will not get you thrown out, but the reaction from the server might make you wish it had. Eyebrows raise. A brief pause follows. The unspoken message is impossible to miss. Then there's the check. In France, asking for the bill too early can feel rude, to the restaurant and to the people you're dining with. A meal isn't just fuel, it's an event. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and rushing toward the end signals that you couldn't wait to leave. Servers in France operate on this same understanding. They will not bring your bill until you ask for it. Not hint at it, not hover near the table looking expectant. They leave you alone. And that's a kindness, even if visitors from faster-paced dining cultures interpret it as neglect. One of the most surprising rules involves the salt shaker. In France, seasoning your food before tasting it is considered mildly offensive. The reasoning is direct. The cook has already seasoned the dish. Reaching immediately for the salt or pepper suggests you have assumed the kitchen made an error before you have even confirmed it. French etiquette asks that you taste first, then adjust if necessary. It's a small gesture, but it carries real weight. It says, "I trust the person who made this." And while you're being careful about the salt, pay attention to your posture at the table. Avoid keeping your hands in your lap, resting your elbows on the table, or slouching over your plate. All of these are quietly noticed in French dining culture. Both wrists resting lightly on the edge of the table are considered proper and engaged. It sounds formal, and it is, but it connects to something larger. Sitting correctly at a French table says that you consider the meal worth your full presence and attention. You are not just passing through, you are there. The lunch break in France is another rule that baffles the rest of the world, specifically its length and its seriousness. In many countries, lunch is 15 minutes, a sandwich eaten at a desk. In France, lunch is a genuine meal with multiple courses, enjoyed at a table, away from work, for an hour or more. Many businesses and shops still close during this time. It is not laziness. It is non-negotiable. The midday meal carries almost the same weight as dinner, and treating it like a minor inconvenience is something the French genuinely don't understand. Food deserves time. The midday meal is proof of that. Then there's the rule about mixing food with water. During a meal, the French drink wine, or sometimes sparkling water. Still water on its own is acceptable, but gulping water constantly throughout the meal, especially cold water, is not standard French practice. In some older traditions, cold water during a meal was thought to interfere with digestion. Whether or not you believe that, the cultural habit stuck. Visitors from countries where a massive glass of iced water arrives automatically with every meal find this jarring. But in France, water is a quiet presence, not the main character. Here's one that gets people in trouble at casual gatherings, as well as restaurants. Never pour your own wine in France. It's considered either greedy or, at the very least, impolite. If your glass is empty, you wait. Someone else at the table will notice and fill it. And in return, you keep an eye on everyone else's glass and fill theirs before your own. It's a small act of hospitality, but it creates a rhythm of attention and care that runs through the entire French dining experience. You are not just feeding yourself, you are part of a shared experience, and that shared experience has obligations. Similarly, starting to eat before everyone at the table has been served is something French etiquette discourages strongly. You wait. The food can cool slightly. That's acceptable. What's not acceptable is the implication that your hunger matters more than the collective moment of beginning together. Bon appetit is said for a reason. It marks the shared start. It's an announcement that the meal, as a group event, has officially begun. Tipping in France follows rules that confuse visitors from countries where a 20% tip is expected and sometimes pressured. In France, service is included in the bill, a concept called service comprise. Tipping is appreciated but never expected, and certainly not mandatory. Leaving a small amount of change as a gesture of satisfaction is perfectly normal. Feeling guilty or stressed about tipping because you are applying the rules of another culture to a French restaurant, that is unnecessary. The system was designed differently, and understanding that is part of respecting it. Now, about that doggy bag situation. For a long time, taking food home from a restaurant in France was genuinely frowned upon. The idea was simple. If you ordered it, you finished it. Leaving food suggested either that the dish was not good or that you had ordered incorrectly, neither of which reflected well. While attitudes have shifted slightly in recent years, and some environmental laws now encourage restaurants to offer to-go containers, the cultural instinct still leans toward finishing what is in front of you. Portion sizes at traditional French restaurants tend to reflect this. They are designed to be eaten there, at that table, during that meal. In short, the expectation is to finish what you are served. One of the most unexpected rules involves children at the table. In France, children eat what adults eat. There is no separate kids menu at a traditional French restaurant, no bowl of plain pasta or mini hot dogs for the little ones. Children are introduced to the same flavors, the same textures, and the same dining etiquette as adults from an early age. They sit at the table, they participate, they eat the cheese course. But from a French perspective, it makes complete sense. Food culture is passed down. If you want a child to grow up understanding and appreciating good food, you include them in it from the very beginning. In the end, one of the most philosophical rules is simple. In France, you should never eat while walking. Food eaten on the move, whether a crepe from a street vendor or a snack between errands, is seen as somewhat undignified. Not scandalous, not criminal, but slightly beneath the act of eating. France has always treated food as deserving of a proper moment, a real pause in the day. Eating while rushing, while distracted, while checking a phone and navigating a sidewalk is the opposite of everything French dining culture values. Even a simple sandwich deserves a bench, a moment of stillness, and at least a few minutes of genuine attention. When you step back and look at all 18 of these rules together, something interesting happens. They stop looking like arbitrary restrictions. They start looking like a unified philosophy. France built its entire dining culture around a single idea. Eating is not a transaction. It is not a refueling stop. It is a deliberate, communal, sensory experience that deserves time, attention, and respect. Every rule connects back to this. The pacing, the wine pairing, the courses, the bread on the tablecloth, the espresso after dinner instead of before, the waiting for everyone to be served. None of it is random. All of it points toward the same belief. That sitting down to eat is one of the most human things you can do, and doing it properly is a form of appreciation for the food, the cook, the people at the table, and the moment itself. Outsiders find it rigid. The French find everything else careless. And somewhere in that gap lies one of the most fascinating cultural divides in the modern world, So the next time you sit down at a French table, maybe you will pause before reaching for the salt. Wait for everyone to be served before you take the first bite. Let the server bring the check when the meal is truly done. And order the espresso, not the cappuccino. Because in France, knowing how to eat is not a small thing. It is everything. And there you have it. 18 strict French dining rules that leave the rest of the world simultaneously baffled and oddly impressed. From the bread on the tablecloth to the sacred midday lunch, France has built an entire culture around the idea that food deserves more than a few hurried minutes. And once you understand the why behind these rules, they start to feel less like restrictions and more like an invitation to slow down and actually enjoy what is in front of you. If you loved diving into the hidden logic behind these traditions, make sure to subscribe to Germany Rewind so you never miss another deep dive into the cultures, customs, and fascinating quirks that shape the world around us. Hit the notification bell and join us next time, because the stories that seem the strangest on the surface always have the most interesting explanations underneath.